Hey guys, Coach Keith Kepner here. I'm going to talk about boxing training, and I'm going to take 8 basic training concepts in boxing, tools for training, and I'm going to categorize them from the least important to the most important. If you've watched a lot of my content before, or if you've been around boxing for a long time, you probably know what are going to be my number 1, number 2 items probably, all right? But I promise you, even if you do know what it's going to be my number 1 or number 2, I promise you there's going to be some things that I'm going to talk about with each one of these items, going from the least important item to the most important item, because everything has a benefit and everything has a trade-off as well. There really is sometimes not really a thing is better, but there are trade-offs for what we're going for, all right? So you might hear about something that you never heard of before, or a way to look at it, or a way to use the tool, and maybe at the very least, I'll just remind you something, or say a certain way that you never heard said before, all right? That's going to be a benefit to you. So without further ado, let's jump into the list. Boom. All right, guys, so talk about this thing, the speed bag. Everyone's favorite tool in the gym that's loud as hell. This is going to be number 8 on my list of 1 through 8 of the most important boxing training tools, of the standard boxing training tools you think about. Again, there's so many things we could list that you've seen people do that it would be a exhaustive list. But this is a classic thing you see in every gym. A lot of times in the gyms that I've owned, when someone walks in, they'll be like, "Where's the speed bag?" They're looking for where it is, right? It's like they look for the speed bag like they look for the ring, right? Or they look for a bag, a heavy bag. Now, this tool has been around for a very long time. Is this tool complete garbage? Complete garbage? No, but it is last on my list for a reason. Why is that? Now, there's many ways to use this tool, but it is last on my list for a reason. I have to tell you an honest-to-God truth. The whole time that I boxed under my father, he never taught me how to use this. Do I feel at all any animosity or I feel like I got left out of the quality of training because he never showed me how to use it? No. It was only when I stopped boxing and I started training people that I was like, let me learn just how to do this thing so I can at least teach people how to do it, right? And then spend a little bit of time practicing it, right? Now, why is this talked about so much? Why is it such a staple? Because it's very unique to boxing. It's very loud, like I said, and it's cool. One thing is it's called a speed bag. So therefore it's like, okay, coach, if I want to get faster, this will make me faster, right? And you could make some slight argument. Okay, you can make an argument for almost anything, but you could make some slight argument that it might make you a little bit faster, perhaps. At the very least, it will allow you to learn how to be more rhythmic and also control force. But let me tell you the illusion of the speed bag. The illusion of the speed bag is it makes you seem faster than you actually are. How is that? Because it's triplets, right? So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Every single one of my strikes is being met by 2 strikes in between. So therefore, I sound a lot faster, like I'm hitting it a lot more than I actually am, right? I'm hitting. If I'm hitting the bag like that, and I'm just hitting, that doesn't sound very fast. Even if you go very, very fast with the speed bag, your strikes are still only ba, 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 ba. You're really, truly not actually being that fast. Now, again, I'm not saying there's not skill behind it, coordination, a few things, but this isn't going to help you that much with boxing. Again, too, think about it as well. I'm not hitting this bag. We talk about standard. I'm not talking about this crap that people do. Like that. Okay, not even talking about that nonsense. Okay, because again, I have at least some tradition to my heart where even if I don't emphasize the speed bag in my boxing training for anything, and my dad didn't emphasize it for me, let's at least hit it triplets with that familiar rhythm that we know as a speed bag. Okay, so let's at least have some tradition. But when you're hitting this thing, you're hitting it with the side of your fist. You know, you can do it more the way like my dad would do it, would be straight on side, straight. So you're actually hitting knuckle and then side. All right, so that's, so you're getting some knuckles in there, and you're doing some side fists, but you never hit anyone with the side fist or a hammer fist or whatever, or all the other stuff that you see people do where they go back here, they go elbow on the bag and whatnot, all that. And, it's cool. It's awesome. Like, it's great to see someone spend a lot of time on something, all right? And we can all respect that. But we're talking about the sport of boxing. So this isn't going to get you better at the sport of boxing. Now, I know what you're saying right now. You're like, well, Coach Keith, hit the bag like you're going to hit a person. Right? Hit him with your knuckles. Yeah, absolutely. There's going to be more use there. That's where you can hit it. You go, And that's the way you can get like your double jabs in your right hand. I've heard some people that I definitely have respect for talk about using the speed bag to get them better at double jabbing. Right? Boom, 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 boom type thing. Yeah, there's something to be said for that. Something to be said for that. Now, one drawback for hitting the bag like that I have a little issue with, why I don't emphasize using it a lot for my guys on double jabs and things like that, is because it does teach you to roll the shots. And again, I'm not saying like if you roll your shots when you punch people in boxing, you're going to get killed. But that's a habit that sometimes can bite you in the butt. When you're throwing your punches and rolling your punches, it's easy to get countered off of that. Again, obviously, I'm not rolling it that much when I hit the speed bag, but you get what I'm saying. We're not developing nice habits to just shoot straight out, pop, and come right back like that. Now, that leads me to a place where I have used this thing even when I did box under my father, right, when I was actually boxing. And that is to hit it like I just did. I would have a speed bag right here. I'm shorter, a little more stocky. So I might be punching someone's head that's about this height. This is a little high, but about this height right here. So this is a good pinpoint thing. It's not a fat, heavy bag that gets you a good feedback of how hard you're snapping it. And you got to snap it. If you push the speed bag, it's going to be very clear that you push the speed bag, right? So it's a good thing to help you get that idea of snapping your shots and getting accuracy. So if you're a shorter person or whatever type of boxer you are, practicing just being here and getting that nice snapshot off it, or a snap right hand off it. I'm here doing my thing, like that. Nice snapshot. And then, of course, the one that I would always do, sometimes the jab, almost never the right hand, almost all the time. Here, I'm here. I want to catch somebody. I'm here. Like that. Ripping their head off with my left hook as best as I could. All right? Now, that's the benefit of it. You build some accuracy. You're not going to have that with the bag. Okay? It's not going to be the same. And it can be a little bit easier on your shoulders, too, because you can really rip as hard as you can in that sucker, and you ain't going to hurt yourself. Those are the benefits to it. And let me tell you another benefit that I like of this tool. Again, it's still number 8, still last on the list. If you want to actually be a good boxer, this is very, very low on your list. If you want to live in the gym, go ahead, practice on it. Because there are benefits that I'm going to leave you with as well that are ubiquitous to using this tool. But something that I do like using it for my boxers with, so the single shots like I just talked about, getting the accuracy, okay? But then also, what I do like about it is to help them learn the timing of a 1-2, all right? A fast 1-2. Because you have the standard, you go boom, boom, but then you have the 1-2 where it's like the classic setup of the 1-2. Bye-bye. You're getting 2 shots together at halftime. So if I'm here on my bag right here, I want to get it. So I'm basically just touching my jab. My jab just basically touched that bag. And as it hits that bag, my right hand is coming right after that shot. That is the benefit I see of this bag. You can do the same thing with a 3-2 like that and getting that 2 right off of the shot. So if I'm here, let me see if I can do it off my first time here. So here on the bag, going to do my jab. Couldn't get it. This sucker's freaking high as hell. Let me try it again here. Again, see? Coach Keith's right hand ain't that fast off that jab. Let me be right here with it. I got me a little bit closer to it. The point is to get that timing of right off of it. It is a great tool for that. And as you can see, I could use more practice with it, right? But I don't box anymore. That's the uses I have it. And the last one that you 100% are going to get with this tool every single day of the week that you use it, it is going to build up some arm endurance and muscle control of rhythm. Because what I see, obviously, with beginners is they'll get the rhythm going, right? Nice and relaxed. And then when they start hitting it faster, they'll start getting out of control with their power. So there actually is a benefit in my mind that I think of hitting the bag, speed bag, and learning how to control your force and to produce the same amount of force every single time, because that affects the rhythm of the bag. So shoulder endurance, rhythm, and muscular control to produce the same amount of force every single time, because no matter if you're doing it slow or fast, if you start hitting it at a different, with a different amount of force, it's going to change the speed of it. But like this, you got to hit it with the same amount of force unless you want to go faster. And then, of course, you get your feet moving around with it too. Move side to side, around the bag, bouncing. Here, bah! Right? So that's some uses of this tool. And again, at the end of the day, guys, we do need to make boxing less monotonous, more fun. So you could make some arguments for it. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but it is last on my list. Sorry, speed bag. All right. So now let's talk about the other tool in the gym, very commonplace, that people look for. When you tell people you box, they're like, let me see you hit the speed bag, let me see you jump rope. And I've literally heard people say, like, oh, well, you know, I can tell if he doesn't know how to jump rope, he doesn't know his speed bag, he doesn't know how to box. Man, I know people that can beat the hell out of you that they haven't spent any time on this, they haven't spent any time on that. And again, this is another thing that when I was boxing, there were some drawbacks, but I didn't spend any time jumping rope. All right? I know that sounds sacrilege, even more sacrilegious than not hitting the speed bag, the jumping rope thing, right? So, with jumping rope, what's the big deal with it, right? Now, the benefit of it is, got a pull right there. The benefit of it is, again, we got a rhythm. Again, staying light on the feet, right? Controlling, being able to repeat effort the same way every single time, and keeping close to the ground. So light on the feet, close to the ground. Obviously, most people, when they start jumping rope, they go like this, like that number. And again, we're learning how to do those light steps, the rhythm, and then we can make it more applicable to the sport of boxing by even doing it. I've had fighters do it in the stance here. Ooh, I got poles up here. Let me go this way. Here. Oh, let me get it going first. So here, jumping rope, again. Not something I did a lot when I boxed, but here, rocking your stance, back and forth, keeping the feet a little bit close together. There's definitely benefit to it. Definitely benefit to it. Let me try one more time just for the hell of it, because now my ego is getting in my way. There we go. Here, you can move around the floor. All right, cool. Good stuff. Gets you breathing. I'm breathing a little bit. It teaches you how to be light on the feet. Teaches you how to be more on your balls or your feet, which is a boxer. You definitely don't want to be in your heels. More volley is good. And then setting. All right, that's good. And learning your rhythm and things like that. Great stuff. Great stuff. Now, why did my dad not have me spend any time jumping rope? And why do I have boxers do it as a warm-up? I have boxers spend a little bit of time with it, but it's not this big emphasis that I see happen a lot. And again, you can say I'm jealous. I'm jealous of all the guys that are freaking slick as hell and amazing with that jump rope. Cool. Awesome. One person comes to mind that I have that up in the ring, they still have trouble, but they can jump rope better than anyone else in the gym, but they're not beating up anyone or everyone in the gym in the ring. But they can beat up everyone on that jump rope. All right? So where are you going to put your time? That's what all this comes down to. Where are you going to put your time? That's why this is number 7. It's not number 8. It's not the last speed bag. Might be the last. This gives you some conditioning, like I said, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the best way to utilize it is maybe perhaps as a warm-up or a finisher. Help you to be light on the feet. Maybe you can get good at moving in your stance like this, keeping the feet close together and move around the floor. I've had guys that have gotten very good at that. There's a benefit to it. Absolutely. Doing double unders, right? That's good conditioning. Great stuff. But when you're learning the art of boxing, the skills of this, you don't need this to do that. You don't need that. You can learn the same exact ideas of the rope here, like this. I don't need to be able to time it with this. Now, you could say there's some benefit of learning to coordinate your hands with your feet, but you can still learn how to coordinate your hands with the feet in the ways you're going to use them, right? Sports science concept or whatever said specific adaptations to impose demands. Your body adapts specifically to the specific things you do to it. And so therefore, what's more specific than the actual sport of boxing, all right? So practice your movement as a beginner, as an intermediate. It's going to be far more beneficial for you than the jump rope, right? Use it as a warm-up, sure, but get your running in, right? Running, it checks, you should be doing that anyway, so it checks the boxes of, if you run correctly, more volley, light on the feet, and all of that, increasing your conditioning, everything. Okay? But as a boxer, you need to practice to be able to get these moves together, the different movements that you're going to be doing, that's going to be the different stuff you do in the sport of boxing. That is what is going to pay off the most. So I'll give you some examples of ways that we would do stuff when I was, whether I was in the States training or when we went down to Mexico for a period of time. Just move around the whole ring. My dad built a ring in our backyard when we were in Mexico, and I would just move around that ring nonstop, moving. So guess what? I got good at learning how to move in boxing, and there's specific conditioning required for it. And then, yes, if as you progress as an athlete over years, yes, absolutely put in more jump rope, more running, things like that. I've talked about the benefits of those different things, and also to help you build up more general conditioning instead of specifically based on boxing. But that's what I have to say for jump rope. The techniques is what I said. Just standard doing it as a warm-up. We do it as a warm-up with my boxers. We do it as a cool down, whatever. That's fine. You want to do that again. All this stuff has some benefits, has some trade-offs. If you're beginner to intermediate, though, make sure if you want to get your jump rope in, also spend some time moving around that ring too, to actually do the moves and practice those dang moves you're supposed to be getting better at. All right, let's go on to training item number 6. All right, guys, so here we are moving on to number 6 on our list of training items, the double M bag. All right, so we have the speed bag, number 8, kind of the last. There's some benefits to it. Some of those benefits are here too. And we have the jump rope, more beneficial than speed bag, honestly, I have to say, probably. Besides some very specific techniques we can work on the speed bag. So it's a minimal tool. And then we have this one. We have a little bit more uses out of this that we can get than maybe specifically just the jump rope and just the bag. Because, man, guys, I'm not talking about pure conditioning. All right? I already did a video about strength and conditioning. I'm not talking about conditioning. I'm talking about something that checks the boxes of making you a better boxer, as well as perhaps, in the process, obviously boxing is a very highly conditioned sport. By doing the moves of boxing, you get in better shape, all right? Specifically for the sport of boxing. And again, there's always extra things you can do. Yes. Watch my other videos on that. We're talking about specific boxing, all right? So the double M bag. Again, there's a theme going on here. This is, again, something that I didn't use the whole time that I trained boxing, basically. I maybe used it once or twice, right? A couple times I'll jump in at another gym, get a workout in. Like one of my dad's former fighters, he had a gym running for a long time, and this was one of the rounds, was doing the double M bag. So on that thing, because we focus on power, my dad, that's his whole philosophy. I was just only able to be there, and I think maybe go like, bah, bah, like that, and just hard right hand, here, be out, step in, pause it like that, and then bah, bah, like that. And that's how I was rocking the whole time. I couldn't even catch it with a 3, right? Couldn't even bah, 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 like that. So let's talk about the benefits. We'll talk about the drawbacks after that, okay? So the benefits of this, because I want to be positive, right? All this stuff, again, I'm not telling you it's garbage, it's stupid, it's the dumbest thing in the world, right? Here it is, the gym that this new awesome gym that we have. Here it is, all right? So anyway, what's the benefits of it? Besides breaking up monotony, because boxing can be a pretty darn boring sport, okay? All right, it does create some accuracy ability, right? Like with a speed bag, right? We have a small target. So there's a benefit to being able to hit that small target and know exactly when it's moving, because sometimes the head does move a little bit like that. Here, right? I'm here. That's kind of how a head might move, and you got to be able to catch that head right where it is, right? Like that. All right, so that's the benefits to it. There's some more benefits too. You learn to control your power, just like we talked about there. Control and power. What, Coach Keith? Isn't boxing all about power and knocking people out? Yes, it's absolutely about knocking people out and everything else, but knowing how to throw your punches with control. There are times that you're going to throw some easy shots to set up the hard shot, like that, and then back to touching, to control. Okay? So there are times that we need to learn to do that. Now, also, people say this is the only bag that hits back. Yes, it does hit back. This is true. So if I'm here and I go, like that, it is going to hit me back 100%, right? I go here, bah, oh my God, beating me up, right? Yes, this bag can't touch you. So there's a benefit there. Now, is it a real benefit? I don't know. Is it similar to boxing? I don't know. What do I mean by that? If I hit it with a straight punch, with a jab, yes, it can provide me a jab. This is how I like for guys to use it. So I'm here, for instance, bam, and I can get my slip right offline, and I could come back with the hook, whatever, right? Or I could be here, I could, bah, hoom, bah, like that, slip offline, shoot the right hand. Notice my right hand was a little bit off from where it was. But what's funny, too, is that sometimes right where the head is, the head won't necessarily be over there, and that's one of the disadvantages to it, because you're hitting that bag here, boom, slip, bam. I got used to shooting the right hand for what this thing is, not for necessarily always where the opponent's head is going to be. But of course, you could argue timing, tracking, things like that. Reflexes, they could come into play. But what I see oftentimes is someone gets really used to knowing where this bag is going to be, that they can hit it and have their eyes closed. Not doing a great job of proving my point, but you get what I'm saying. If I can do it with very little training, what happens if you think you spend a few years on this thing? And we'll be clear, when I say very little training, I'm saying very little training on this thing. Right, again, this is another thing I only really learned how to use or uses for it as I started coaching over 13, 14 years ago. All right? Now, so we talked about like hitting, slipping offline. Yeah, boom, boom, slip, stuff like that. Come back with shots. Awesome stuff. Also mixing in some hand defense with it as well. There's a benefit to this. It's great. I love it for these things. So I'm here because you can't get the feel of placement. So I'm here, I jab, like that. Shouldn't be breathing on my defense, right? But here, like that. I can work my different stuff. I can go here, bam, bam, here, block. Ooh, here's one I like. 1, 2, block 2. Pop, pop, block 2, 3. Ooh, got to get it better here. I'm here. Pop, pop, boom, pop, pop. Like that. 1, 2, block 2, 3. I can get my 1, 2, 5, 2, 3. Mixing up different shots. Moving around your bag. Right here. Pop, pop. Sidestepping, working all that. Those are the benefits to this thing. Drawbacks to it. When you really dig it, it goes crazy, right? And like I said, if you're not careful, you might just get really good at working this. But unless you're trying to be a champion double M bag hitter, might not be what you want to do. That's enough about this. Let's move on to the next training. All right, guys, so here's the next one, the heavy bag, all right? So now we're getting some more things that are more and more commonly used. And that's what's funny about some of the previous things, right? Like the speed bag, is that it's a very clear skill difference on that item just by a quick visual look, right? When someone punches a heavy bag, you gotta know a little bit something about boxing to know if they look like they know how to use it, right? Because someone can just be kind of just like, I don't know, going like this maybe. And you're like, damn, like, it looks powerful. But to the uneducated eye, that looks like that. But if you're educated, you're like, maybe. Looks a little sloppy to me. What happened if the bag wasn't there, right? Could he set that up, right? Those things, all right? Versus an uneducated eye can hear the speed bag and like, damn, that's pretty impressive. They can see the jump rope and they can go and pick up a jump rope and try to do it, and literally just, they can't match the movement, right? But they can get on a bag and they don't know what they look like, and they, and they're like, I think I look pretty good, right? And they see force being generated. Or on the double M bag, they see the slickness of touching the bag and everything else, and there's a finesse to it. It becomes a cool, I don't want to say trick, but it's almost like a trick in a sense. The fact that you can be amazing at these things but not be amazing at boxing. Okay. Now, the heavy bag. Let's talk about the benefits first. So everyone knows the heavy bag, right? A lot of people say the heavy bag is what helps you produce power. I'm gonna tell you that I don't totally agree with that. All right, making sure my mic was still on. Why I don't totally agree with it? Because when people only hit heavy bags, what I notice sometimes is they'll learn to punch to the bag, versus that classic thing that we all know about punching through the bag. And that's for other things that if you've been around boxing or you know my channel, you know I'm going to talk about in a little bit. But if we only punch the heavy bag, we learn to punch right at the heavy bag oftentimes instead of some other things we need to be working on. Also, if used incorrectly, it can be a real bad time. Meaning, I always have that bag in front of me. So I can easily go like that, and I'm relatively fine because the bag's there. But the moments the bag's not there, I'm gonna fall on my face. And that's not gonna translate to that thing we all wanna get good at. Not bag punching, but actually the sport of boxing against another human being that moves, will make you miss and make you pay. And you gotta be able to miss a shot hot and still come back with a shot. Miss a right hand here, and still come back with a hook. All right, we still gotta be able to do these things. And the bag is gonna be a limitation. Here I'm talking about the negatives, all right? But people say it builds power. We won't be able to follow through, all right? But it does build power because why? When you hit it, unlike some other tools we're gonna be talking about, when you hit it, you know if you hit it kind of hard or not, right? If you just went like that, you know that wasn't a hard punch. Those aren't hard punches, and you know that. It gives you that immediate feedback, auditory and kinesthetically, all right? And sometimes visually too, because you can hit that bag right, you can buckle a bag, not one quite like that. You can buckle this one here. Let me see if I, you get a little bit of buckling, you can see it a little bit. See if my mic popped off yet. But, so it can't help with power, because you gotta squeeze tight right when you hit, all right? Big benefit of that. You learn to squeeze tight because you're throwing your whole body weight with your punch, hopefully, right? Now, the downsides are, like I mentioned before, also as well, it teaches you to be right there. Now, of course, I know, absolutely. Work on moving around with your punches. I'm here. Here. Sometimes work on shooting shots that don't land at first, right? I shoot a right hand, I miss the right hand, let's say. I'm here. Come back with that hard jab. Ooh, that cocks me for a nice hard jab. Gets you used to missing somebody and then stepping in with a jab, things like that. Maybe even missing a hook, coming back with the right hand. There's a lot of drills sometimes we'll do here. Like that. Good training, good uses, all right? Now, again, but the problem is the way the bag moves. If I do a hook, the bag, unless it's really heavy or being held by somebody, is gonna slightly go off this way. And then my right hand is gonna be there in order to land it. I know when I was training a lot and my dad wasn't there to hold the bag, he would almost always hold the bag for me. I would have to then change where my right hand went to over there. Because oftentimes when you hit someone with a really clean shot with a left hook, they're just like this, boom. They don't go woo like that and move over, right? They're boom, they like that. They crumple down a little bit. They don't just fly over. And that's what can happen sometimes with a heavy bag. That's where, you know, the heavier a heavy bag is, the more beneficial. But then also sometimes the heavier it can get, the harder it can get. And that can be problematic. If you want to talk about old school boxing, right? A lot of those bags weren't as hard as you think they are. Because you watch like Jersey Joe Walcott, Joe Louis hit a bag. Those bags are pretty darn soft. That's one reason that the coaches always holding them. And that's a big thing. Because where a heavy bag applies the most in boxing is when you get someone on the ropes. Or someone who's stationary. So imagine you got someone on the ropes right here. That's the time that this tool is the most applicable, I think. To focus on putting your punches together in a fashion that you're just right there, or he's right there, and you're throwing. And yeah, you cut an angle, things like that, mixing defense and offense, all that stuff that you want to do as a boxer, always in your training, no matter what you're doing. But this allows me to be here and to like that. Get my shots off. Here, get my, maybe miss my uppercut or pretend like it's jaw with there, come back, right? Be able to get those different shots off and generate power, force when someone sits for you for a second and you can try to get them out of there, all right? And then also, it's a good tool to learn your range because if you think about it, now it can also be a bad tool because, you know, we all see plenty of people like this. They're too close with their punches on a heavy bag. When they're long range, like on their jab and stuff like that, they'll throw jabs this close to it. And then they'll throw right hands and they'll go from actually being at a good range to being at this range. And that's not gonna be very good for them. Versus being here, long range, here, super long, like that, like that. Super long range on it. That's the benefits of it. And again, you don't always have to scream and yell. That's something that I'm just doing for that one shot. But being here and, yes, breathe on your punches, don't hold your breath, but also learn. You see plenty of great fighters. They're here and they can literally just be talking to someone and throwing their punches, and they're just here. What you got, sucker? What you doing? What you doing? Huh? What's that? What's that? What's that? Huh? And you don't always have to be breathing hard on your shots. Because also if you always do it, it might be a problem. All right? Now, let's move on to the next tool in our arsenal of boxing training. All right, guys, so let's talk about our next tool here. Talk about mitts, okay? So something that, again, all these tools have drawbacks and benefits. And this is a tool that definitely can be overused and used in the wrong freaking ways, right? Someone's smacking with the mitts and things like that, smacking punches, to be clear, it can be a big freaking problem, okay? Also, too, there's so many, okay? I'm gonna get into it. Now, let's first though talk about the benefits, right? Let's be positive. So, with mitts, the benefit is that now they have to have very, very good accuracy, right? If they don't get that mitt right where it needs to be, obviously it takes a good mitt holder to hold it, in my opinion, in places where it needs to be, right? To not be like boom, boom, bam with the hook, 1, 2, hook, 1, 2, hook. That's where you want the hook, or here. So if we do 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. See that? 3's right there. It's mimicking what? Boom, boom, bam, right? We want boom, boom, bam. That's where boom, boom, bam, right? So 1, 2, 3, 2. 1, 2, 3, 2. See that? 1, bum, bum, bum. It's all right there where they need to be thrown. Now that can be, if we don't do that right, it can be 1, 2, 3, 2. Big problems, okay? Now, with our mitts, when you got someone in front of you, your boxer in front of you, right? Or your coach is in front of you holding mitts for you, or your team member, then guess what? They can move all around that ring. And we can mimic literally everything, because the bag doesn't move like a person does, like we talked about. But you can move like a person does when you hold mitts, or your coach can, or your partner. And so you can literally work on everything that you'd want to work on when you're fighting. Everything. And you can even work on, obviously, the counters, right? And the defensive maneuvers, and someone throwing back and you respond to it. And also you dealing with uncertainty of what they might be throwing back, right? You can make a closed drill and open it up slowly, meaning that after your jab, boom, I might shoot a counter. And you don't know what that counter might be. Maybe to start off you do. Maybe you know it's going to be a jab counter after your jab. Or it might be a jab or a left hook. Or it might be a jab, a right hand, a left hook, or an uppercut, or a body shot. And then we add variables to it, and it allows you to literally get most of the benefits you get from like actually doing the sport of boxing with mitts. And that's a big benefit. But it takes someone with experience to hold mitts for you properly and to make it work. But again, anyone can get the experience over time. And I've seen people progress very quickly with mitts when they have the right guidance and things like that. When they're approaching it the right way. Now, it actually can help you be faster, I think, more than the speed bag, right? Why do I think it can help you be faster? Because as the mid holder, you can actually force somebody to throw a little bit faster by how you're feeding them the mitts, okay? And that's something you got to experience to understand if you don't understand what I'm saying. But for those of you that do understand, you know what I'm talking about. It's the timing of the mitts. Now, also as well, the timing of counters, right? You can make the timing of your counters better with the right type of mitt holding. And you can literally work almost all the tools. I've had guys that I've gotten ready for pretty high level pro fights where sometimes some of them didn't even spar, and we just did a lot of mitt work, and those are some of the fights they did the best in because we were focusing on everything we needed to focus on, and it was exactly what we were doing to prepare for our opponent, okay? And also as well, what's beneficial conditioning wise about mitts for boxing training is that it forces you to throw sometimes when you're not ready to throw, right? Because there's two ways to do it. If the mid holder can do it in a way that every time they call it, you do it, or a more fight specific way sometimes. You should do both. But a more fight specific way is like, my guy knows, or I tell him that I want, again, just to be basic, I want like a 1-1-2, right? 1-1-2 weave under, right? Boom, boom, bam, weave under. And I'm just ready for it. So we're moving around doing our thing, and when he goes, I'm ready to catch. Boom, boom, bop. And that's it. Okay, so that literally is allowing him to launch his attacks the same way that he would be doing if he was actually boxing. All right. Now, drawbacks, we can put on a body pad, and that's something I've done a lot, and my dad did for me a lot. And again, this is the majority of our training, was a lot of mitt work and a lot of the few other things we're going to be talking about in a moment. But that's where I see it pay off the most, conditioning-wise, skill-wise, timing-wise, accuracy. Because like I talked about in my video on how to be a power puncher, accuracy is part of being a power puncher, and I got a lot of compliments when I boxed about the accuracy of my punches, and I like to think that is because of all the mitt holding that my dad did for me, and the specific mitt holding. Again, to be clear, 1s and 2s here, 3s are right here, they're not over here. Everything is tight in this pocket, and yeah. So I can go on for ages about the mitts, but let's jump on to the next category. All right, so now to be clear, the mitts is kind of tied with this, all right? One could be more important than the other. It depends a little bit what level you are. If you're more of a beginner, this one's going to be more important. If you're intermediate, more advanced, then mitts could replace this, or could be more important sometimes. But it's drills. It's partner drills. Drilling specific blocks, catches, slips, counters, right? Basic stuff, but important stuff. Let's drill how to block a couple punches together. Let's drill how to block or catch and block a 1-2 and counter with a 2, or when you're ready, catch the jab, slip the 2 and come back with a body shot, etc. Let's drill that with another human being, so we're actually drilling this thing called boxing. We're not getting good at bags of different types and ropes of different types. That is honestly, it can help prepare you. It can help prepare someone that has the skill and ability. But if that's all you're doing, you're just being cute. Drills with a partner, just like you do any other martial arts. You do jiu-jitsu, anything. You need another partner. If you just roll with a dummy all the time and you're doing like wrestling or BJJ, it's not the same thing. You can learn the idea of a move, yes. You can learn the idea of a punch, absolutely. But you need to know the context in which you're doing it. So therefore, that's where drills, partner drills, come into play. You can do that in a very closed fashion where it's very specific. Again, like I said, where it's like catch, block, right? Or you can do more open where they might throw as many jabs as they want. You got to watch out for a right hand, and then you look to counter that right hand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? So there's a lot of ways to do it. But the more beginner you are, the more closed the drill is, which means the less options there are. And the more advanced you are, the more you can open the drill. And anytime you start to struggle, you're not getting a concept, you close the drill down, which means eliminate the options, make it more simple, slow it down a little bit, get it down, and then you're able to, in a controlled fashion, speed it up, add more variables, and that leads you to what you're going to be doing when you box somebody. All right? So I could go on about all the different types of drills you can do, all the different combinations, benefits, footworks, things like that. Punches, counters, etc., head movement drills, a lot of stuff. But that is going to be number 3 on my list for a beginner or even an intermediate boxer. Like I said, for intermediate and advanced, it starts getting tied with mitt work that's done by a good, competent mitt holder that is doing fight mitt style. But that's number 3. Let's move on to number 2. All right, guys. So now moving on to number 2. I think you probably know what this is going to be. Shadowboxing. Shadowboxing. I've talked about it in a ton of my videos. I think I've done whole series on shadowboxings, maybe. If I have not, that's something that needs to be on the docket. But shadowboxing is checking all the boxes. It is number 2 because there is number 1 coming up. Which again, you probably know what the hell it is, but appreciate you sitting this journey through with me and hope you maybe were reminded of something or learned something new or heard something said a new way that connects with you. Shadowboxing, guys. You're doing everything that you do when you box. Shadowbox with gloves, too. Here I'm being bad and I'm not having gloves on. Shadowbox with your freaking mouthpiece in because you shouldn't get used to doing something that you're never going to do without your mouthpiece. And I know what you might be saying, man, I'm fighting amateur. Yeah, you might want to put your headgear on, too. Get used to that thing. Put your cup on. Get used to that. Put your boxing shoes on. Everything. But shadowboxing, in a ring or in a place where it's a square, you're going to be doing everything that you're going to be doing when you box somebody. Everything. And do your defense. Don't just That type of thing. I see so many guys doing this. It's like, really? You box like that? Also, too, even think about your eyes. They're looking down at the floor. They're not even getting used to looking to where they should be. They're actually practicing, doing something that they need to untrain themselves to do, which is that sometimes when we box, we look at the floor. You don't want to do that. You want eyes up, eyebrows a little bit like that, contracted, up your forehead or your brow is up, right? So you're here. Because I would spend so much time with my father, we'd be just shadowboxing in the boxing ring. And you moving, cutting off the ring, defense, things like that. I'm here cutting them down, doing my thing. Here, blocking shots when I'm ready. Ha, 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 ha. Here, ha, ha. He gets away. Ha, 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 ha. Then I step out. I'm done. I regroup for a little bit. Then when I'm ready again, maybe mixing some feints. Here. Then, stay with them. That type of thing. That's the real stuff. That is the real stuff. And you know what's really cool about this real stuff? You don't need a partner to do it. You don't need a competent mid holder, competent drilling partner. You don't need to buy a bag. You don't need to buy, see how out of breath I am from actually doing this thing that's boxing. This will get you in great shape. This will get the legs going. This will build up the muscles in your back that will protect you when you miss punches. Because the most tiring thing anyone will tell you that can happen when you box, when you fight, is to miss your punches, right? Now, of course, you could say more tiring is to get hit clean with body shots, things like that, even headshots. Yeah. But as far as what you're doing, the most exhausting thing is missing. When you're shadowboxing and shadowboxing hard, like I was just doing, throwing punches with mean intentions and throwing them like you're landing them, guess what? When you miss your punches in your sparring or when you fight, you're not going to have problems. You're going to have less problems. Your balance is going to be better. You're going to be able to recover off of misses. And when you get to freaking hit something, you'll actually be faster. Because that's one thing I see guys struggle with too, is that they'll throw their punches when they shadow box. And so for instance, like let me do this here. If I do, let's say, like a left hook and a right hook to the body, right? So I'm here and I, like that. That's kind of slow, right? But it's because I'm going through. Those are misses. If I hit, I have something there, it's going to be a little bit quicker, right? Like that versus the big, like that. But what's the big miss doing for me? Teaching me to follow through like I talked about earlier. Helping me learn my balance. Helping me build up those muscles and the conditioning I need to miss big punches and to be okay and to be able to do more of it. Now, obviously you can see where this is going. That's number 2. What do you think number 1 is? You could say it's fights, but it's sparring, right? Because again, the competition, the pinnacle of what we're doing with boxing is the competition side. So next to that is sparring. Now, what's the downsides of sparring? Or why not spar all the time? You could, but you'd get damaged. I've talked about that a lot in my previous videos. I'm not going to belabor the point and talk too much about it. But getting sparring in and getting high quality sparring in. Now, not all of us have other people in our gym, right, that are around our weight or our experience. So be very serious about getting yourself good sparring. Obviously, ask for your coach for help and guidance. But no matter how good the coach is, and no matter how much your coach cares about you, take that personal initiative to, not cheat on your coach or cheat on your gym, but man, like line it up, approve it with your coach, but line it up. I have a lot of fighters, my best fighters, they tend to do that. They're making connections with other boxers. They go to a tournament and they get the contact information of other boxers so they can get that work in, right? They, if I have connections, which I have a lot, I'll obviously take my guys to sparring and bring other gyms to spar our guys so we get that quality work. But also, even on top of that, they're going out and getting their own work too. So like if your coach isn't bringing you outside work in or helping you get that outside work, then you need to definitely do it. But even if they are, you also need to be doing it. Okay? Now, of course, you need to get to a level of ability with your own team, with the people in your gym that you're ready to do that, right? You don't need to just be like 4 months into boxing, training and stuff like that and be trying to go other places because you're probably going to get hurt. You're not going to take care of half the time, all right? And you don't want to gamble because boxing is a freaking dangerous sport. Very dangerous sport that's not taken as seriously as it should be taken, right? I've seen people act like stuff is funny when guys are getting seriously hurt. It's not funny. It's human beings. And I know what type of person you are, but I know what type of person I am. I care about human beings. All right? Even though we're doing this funny sport called boxing where we do put damage on other people, that person agrees to it. There's rules, there's regulations that help it keep it as safe as it can be. Right? Driving a car is very dangerous. It can literally kill you. So can boxing. But we take precautions when we drive, hopefully, and you have law enforcement to make sure you do. And the same thing happens when you have a good coach or when you fight and you have the referee and other ring officials. Okay? That's the video. That wraps it up, guys. If you enjoy this, make sure you click like. Make sure you click subscribe. Like I've mentioned in my other videos, I've been super busy managing a massive gym that provides so many things while keeping our boxing programs at other locations and this location top notch, helping our fighters and everything else. So I haven't been consistently doing these videos, but at least I'm going to get one out to you every single week because I really do value this community and I value everyone's support. Comment below, like, share, give me a super thanks if you enjoyed it, and look out for the next one. Thanks, guys.